Hi, I'm Deanna Long, and welcome to the Dream Real interview series. You're going to meet people who are living their dream lives. You're going to hear their personal stories, their challenges, their triumphs, and even strategies and tips to help you to live your dream life.
And today I am very excited and honored to be interviewing Mike Jaffe. I met Mike recently at the Conversation Among Masters coaching conference in Asheville, North Carolina. And we were fortunate to sit next to one another at lunch, and really I just enjoyed meeting Mike so much. He's a really great guy, very personable. And when he shared a little bit about his personal story and his work, I was so moved. It's so powerful. So I'm really excited to have this opportunity to talk with Mike today and for him to share a little bit more about his own personal story, his version of the dream life. Mike, I am so glad you're here today. Thank you.
Thanks, Deanna. I feel the same way about you, and I'm excited to be here.
Oh, thank you so much. So, Mike, I'm going to introduce you a little bit more formally, and then we'll get going with some questions and hear more about your life and your personal story. Mike Jaffe is a 9/11 survivor who has transformed his life, and Mike serves as the human wake-up call, and he has used his own brush with tragedy and uses it as a message of self-discovery and empowerment. Mike is an inspirational and motivational speaker, facilitator, and coach whose programs wake up your potential and get you into action to live powerfully. Mike is the author of the popular ebook, Wake Up, Your Life is Waiting for You, and he also has a brand new book that is coming out this summer that will tell his 9/11 story and also provide the 5 principles that you need to live powerfully starting today. His company provides coaching and consulting that helps individuals and organizations unlock their potential, create new possibilities for growth and success without waiting for one more precious day. You can learn a lot more about Mike and his company, his coaching, at www.humanwakeupcall.com. So, Mike, welcome. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Thank you. So, share with us a little bit about what your own unique version of your dream life is. I loved learning this when we first met.
Well, listen, for me, living a dream life is not about necessarily having a villa in St. John, although that would be nice, and that might be an ingredient for one day. So as we talk about the future, that's certainly in there. But for me, it's really all the little things. It's all the day-to-day things that make up your life. So being present and really recognizing and staying in gratitude about my children and their accomplishments and their, travails, when they fall down, how they get back up again, and, the partnership and the support I have in my wife, and the challenges that I constantly try to take on myself, and the pride I feel when I pick myself up. So for me, having an ideal and a dream life isn't about having nothing go wrong or not having challenges. It's actually quite the opposite. It's about continuously growing through the challenges, through the experiences, staying engaged, taking on things that stretch my limits, constant learning, and just surrounding myself with the people and the friends, and the colleagues that can help me feel loved and that I can contribute to. There's nothing better than being in the life-changing business, as you know.
Yeah.
And so that's right, and that's a very big aspect of a dream life is having meaning in the work that I do.
I love that. Do you mind sharing a little bit about your new lifestyle? I know that you did create a new lifestyle for yourself, and I know that your life was transformed from what it was to what it is now. Could you share with us what that pivotal point was for you?
Yeah, so absolutely. So a number of years ago, I was at a crossroads, and when I look back, I realized that for most of my life up to that point, I was doing what I call floating down the river. So things were fine.
Mm-hmm.
Things were okay. They were fine. I had a good job and a good life, and things were not that challenging, I guess, and I was blessed in many ways that way. But I really was not being accountable for choosing and creating my life. I was letting things happen to me. And one day I just found myself in a situation where I had a long commute. I was commuting 2 hours back and forth to work, 4 hours a day, to a job that was okay, but it wasn't really meaningful for me. And I never got to see my 1-year-old daughter, my daughter was 1 at the time. I'd leave in the morning, she'd be sleeping. I'd come home at night, she'd be sleeping. And days turned into weeks, turned into months. And that was not the kind of dad I wanted to be. That was not the kind of husband I wanted to be. That was not the dream life for me. But yet I still needed to be responsible because I was the sole breadwinner at the time. And my family was counting on me, right, to be able to support us.
Sure.
It wasn't a matter of being reckless, right? You ever feel like that where you feel like you're just running in place and you know you want things to change, you just don't know what to do about it?
Absolutely. I think that's very common, actually.
Yeah, I agree. So, and that's exactly where I was. And so there was this one Monday afternoon where I got away from all the noise at my office because it's very hard to think when you're just reacting all day, which is what we tend to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I got away from the noise. And as I'm contemplating this, I realized in that moment I had what I call a moment of truth. No one is going to do this for me. I need to do it. Now, it sounds obvious, but when you're in the middle of your own story, it's not as easy to see that. So I had this little moment where I realized that I needed to be the one to make the change. And I knew I couldn't do something, or I felt I couldn't do something huge at the time. I needed to stay responsible, so I decided to start small. And I started thinking, what's one small step I can take? What is one thing I can do that'll at least be something, maybe create some new momentum, just at least make me feel like a human again, not a robot that's just a drone that's coming in and out of this work and on this long commute and all that. And I decided that I would start with breakfast. I would start by being a dad again. And I thought, if I have breakfast tomorrow morning with my wife and my daughter, it'll only be 20 minutes, not a big deal, but at least it'll make me feel like I had some control. And I can get into work a little bit later than normal. Still, a couple minutes after 9 o'clock. I didn't have any meetings I needed to go to. I'll take work home if I have to. I'll make it work. So it wasn't about being a rebel or about being belligerent. It was about figuring out a way to make it all work. And I was really excited. I called my wife. I told her we're going to have breakfast tomorrow. She didn't quite understand the enthusiasm. I said, that's all right. I didn't expect her to.
She's probably like, well, that's nice, honey.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. Okay, well, that's nice. Very nice. But I knew the change that was happening inside, which she, of course, didn't know. And when I got up that very next morning, and we all have our rituals and our habits, and I got up at the normal time, and I put on my suit, and I was ready to go at my normal time, and she came out, and she said, I thought we were going to have breakfast, but if you want to just catch your normal train, you can still make it. And that's where I stood at my crossroads. I didn't know I was at a crossroads, but I was at a very significant crossroads. And so that's when the little voices started the tug of war in my head. Go to work. It was a good idea, but just go to work, do your normal thing, pat yourself on the back, and you'll do it another day, someday. Mm-hmm. Then the other voice was saying, no, you made a commitment. The whole point is that you want to start taking control back. This is the way you do it. This will be great. And so I have these two voices going back and forth in my head. Well, finally, I just said, stop. I said, the whole point was to have breakfast. Let's have breakfast. And we sat down and we had a beautiful breakfast. And because I had that breakfast, I was still in the subway when the first plane slammed into the World Trade Center and actually hit my floor, hit my desk. And, many of my colleagues, and I would have been up there at the time had I not had that breakfast. So that was my crossroads. And now a lot of times we say that was my wake-up call, but actually my wake-up call happened on September 10th when I was sitting there really thinking about and taking ownership for my life. That was my wake-up call. And September 10th looked like any other day. It looks like today. So you don't necessarily see, a rainbow across the sky or some kind of very explicit, obvious sign. You need to just take control.